Hi, I'm James,
And I'm Teresa.
and this is the Creating Normal podcast, a podcast on living a creative life beyond mental illness.
Where we share our successes and our struggles in life and in art. Hi, everyone, and welcome to another week of Creating Normal with me, Teresa Colon, and James Prescott. Hey, James, how are you?
Hey, Teresa. Yes, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good. I've had a long week. How's your week been?
Oh, yes, my week. Well, we talk about mental illness a lot on the show. One of the reasons we do the show is to provide a bit of solidarity for those who are struggling with mental illness. I have a story of that this week. I had a job interview on Friday, and I pretty much had an anxiety attack at work. It was for a job I'm already doing, but I'm going full-time permanent with this job, but I need to have an interview. And so I was at work right next to the room where I was going to have the interview. And in the morning, I was just a wreck. I just had a kind of anxiety attack, got all panicky, you know. Had the interview, and it was fine.
Great.
Yeah, and then Monday, my boss, who's really great boss, who'd been one of the people who'd done the interview, didn't speak to me all day, and I thought, oh no, I've screwed the interview up. So I had another anxiety attack about that, and got all panicky and stressed out. And then I spoke to my manager at the end of the day, and she said, oh no, I was just busy. You did really well. You did a great interview, So again, 2 times. This is what happens when you get anxiety triggers. You get once something sets you off, and you just go on this spiral, and your brain starts tricking you into thinking things that aren't true, that are totally irrational, and you probably know that they're not true, but your brain is telling you something else. So I was really, really overwhelmed, and I'm okay now. That was Friday and Monday. Other than that, I've been doing some editing for a magazine that I work on,
Oh, neat.
which has been fun. So that's a bit of creativity I've done this week. How about you?
I've had a long week, James. It's been a really challenging week, and it's been a real learning week for me. So I'm in the middle of doing a lot of different things. In addition to launching this podcast, and I'm designing the website for this podcast. Obviously, it's a collaborative thing, but the technical side of it is my responsibility. That's one of the ways that we split up our workload.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also building the website for my other podcast that's launching soon, My Undiagnosed Life. And I'm rebuilding my own website for Wounded Birds Ministry. So it's 3 different audiences, and it's 3 different activities. So there's been a lot of, trying to sort through what each needs to look like has really been stretching me. And some of the things that I want to do are things that I've never done before. And that means looking things up and taking the time to finally learn how to do some of those things, that like font pairing, and how do I make sure that my colors are going to go together on some of these websites, and figuring out color palettes, which is just, one of my weaknesses. So it's been really good to kind of discover some of the tools that are available out there. That's been a big help to me. But it's also been incredibly stressful. I haven't, I get into these headspaces where I just need to get this done. And what that meant was that I didn't have my post for Medium written until Saturday or Sunday night, and barely got that up on time Monday morning to launch with a new publication, which I'm really excited about. It's a really big publication. And then I had a big win. Somebody else saw that post in personal growth and said they wanted to syndicate it out, and they on Thought Catalog, and I guess they have like 30 million hits on their website every month. So that's a really exciting opportunity. And then, but that's a lot of stress, and it kicked off Sunday. I was just a hot mess. And what happened is my family and I went to the mall, and I left my iPhone. I forgot my iPhone in the women's bathroom there, was back within 10 minutes and it was gone. It was stolen. So, it's just one of those things where I forget how important it is for me to manage my stress levels because, we had to go out. I lost in my entire Sunday afternoon to going out and buying a new iPhone, which is almost in some ways to me right now more expensive than actually buying the new device. So that's really frustrating for me because it's, in January, I lost the second of my two remote car keys. And so I couldn't start my car. And that was, another $800+ out that we had to spend because my bipolar interfered. And I lost those other things, and thank God my husband's been gracious about it. But it's a symptom I have to manage better. And I don't know what that looks like yet. So it's something that's kind of sitting in the back of my head while I'm
Mm.
also working on all these other things. So it's just kind of a lot to have going on. But good. I
Well,
mean, I'm learning a lot. I'm learning a lot and I love that.
that's great. I mean, it's not so great about losing your phone and all of that, but it's great that you're learning a lot,
Yeah,
and that's good. It's all about that, really, isn't it?
it sure is.
And that kind of moves us really gently into our topic for this week, doesn't it?
Yeah,
So,
I think it does. We're talking about coaching this week, aren't we?
yes, coaching, everyone. We're talking about coaching this week. Um, yeah,
This was something I asked you to talk about a little bit, James, just because you are a coach and you and I have worked together a little bit here or there, and it's been really helpful to me. And, you know, I've always been hesitant to hire a coach
mm,
because I don't know, um, first of all, if I have found a high quality coach or if I'm at a stage in my development now where I should be having a coach. So I was just hoping that you would let me just kind of ask you these questions. And I figured we might as well do it on the podcast and let others learn along with us, if that's all right with you.
yeah, sure, absolutely.
Awesome.
Great.
So why don't we just dive in then and start with, how do I know if I'm even ready for a coach? Is it make sense to get a coach before I've even launched anything, or should I wait until I've hit a certain quote unquote success level?
I think you can have different coaches for different stages of your development.
Okay.
Um, Different coaches specialize in different things. So one coach, there may be a coach that's a specialist at helping people start off their creative journey, for example, and someone who is good at helping people get into a good writing habit,
Mm-hmm.
to finding their voice, and
Mm-hmm.
to help them to start building that blog and getting it off the ground. And there might be another coach who's good at marketing, who's good at promotion, who's good at networking, who's good at getting your name out there to people, and knowing how to get your name known. I mean, I know coaches who do both of these things. I've worked with coaches who do both of these things.
Yeah.
I mean, I work with separate coaches who each do these things. That's what I mean. Um, People who work with me and helped me do these things. Yeah, so there'll be different coaches for different stages. You may want to hire a coach. If you're writing a book, you might want to hire a coach to help you write the book specifically.
Yeah.
There's a lot of coaches that do that. One of the things that I do as a coach is help people get from having kind of a jumble of ideas to having a clear structure for a book and then writing their first draft. I don't do the publishing. I don't do the editing. I don't do the final proofreading. I don't do any of that. I just get them from one place to another place, and then somebody else does the other stuff. And that's kind of how coaches work. I think everyone can benefit from a coach of some kind. It depends. You need to know what you want, though, and before you go spending your money, you need to know what you're investing in.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about that in a minute. But yeah, don't just hire a coach for the sake of it. Hire a coach if you actually need one.
Okay.
Um,
So, I mean, how do I even I got lucky. I happened to meet you because we are in a similar Facebook group. And I don't know if anybody else can hear like a bell going off in the background, but my cat just decided she was ready to go play with her bell. So apologize if you guys are hearing anything in the background on my side. Um, but I got lucky. I met you through a Facebook group and got exposed to you that way. And that is how we met. But how would I go about, finding, let's say my challenge is marketing right now. How would I even go about finding a marketing coach or finding a coach who would help me in a different area of where I'm at?
Well, there's a few ways you can do that. Networking is a really good way to do that. So literally, Facebook. Find Facebook groups
Yeah.
um, where there are marketing coaches. Ask around on Facebook. Put a Facebook post up asking for recommendations.
Okay.
In the writers group. I mean, writers groups are a great place to find a coach because chances are that a lot of people in those groups will have a coach or know of a coach.
Okay.
So ask in those groups and tell them what kind of coach you specifically want, and you might get some joy that way. If all else fails, you can Google. I found I've had two or three coaches. I found my first coach through a Facebook group that we were both part of, and then she connected me with another coach when we were done working together. Because
Oh, really?
yeah, she'd taken me from one place to another place, and then she recommended for the next stage of my journey that I try somebody else. This person that she knew who had coached her. A lot of coaches, they do kind of this. They just informally recommend each other,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm still with that coach a year later. That second coach, and changed my life.
Hmm.
It was what's called a mindset coach. So it wasn't really about writing specifically. It was about changing my mindset to life. So it's a lot to do with my mental health, actually, in a way,
Mm-hmm.
because it was changing my how I saw myself, how I choose to react in different situations,
Mm-hmm.
how I respond to triggers,
Mm-hmm.
um, limiting beliefs, that kind of thing. And I've been working for her for about a year, and that's been really, really helpful. So different coaches have different roles, and you can just find them by just connecting. Ask on Twitter. That's a good place to ask because people that follow you will see that, and yeah, you should be able to find somebody.
Hmm.
And again, it depends on what you need, what kind of coach you need, and what specifically that you need. Yeah,
That's really interesting. I never thought about how one coach might recommend another coach, but you say that and it suddenly like makes sense to me. So that's a
yeah.
great tip.
It's like an author would recommend an author. Like you speak to an author about a topic, and they say, "Well, on this topic, this person's a really great person to read." You
Mm-hmm.
know, they might be an expert on their topic, but somebody else will be an expert on another topic,
Yeah.
and so they recommend them. So that's kind of yeah.
So once I have found a couple of coaches, how do I make a selection? How do I know if I have found a good coach or the right coach for me?
Well, what a lot of coaches do, and I think a lot of coaches offer like a free half-hour call,
Okay.
discovery call. Sometimes it's called, where you talk to them and you tell them what you want from them. You listen to them you listen to how they're going to help you, and you see if you've got a chemistry.
Got it.
See if you get on with each other and if you can work together, because that's important for both of you.
Okay.
It's important for a coach that they can work with somebody, and it's important for the person who's being coached that they can work with the person that's coaching them. You
Okay.
need to have a healthy relationship. If you don't connect, if you don't get on, if you rub each other up the wrong way, then it's not going to work. So you need to kind of test each other out in a way. A lot of coaches offer that free of charge, and what you can do is you can do that with a couple of coaches and again, the person that fits with what you want the most, and
Yeah.
who you connect with, who you get on well with, who you feel can help you, and who will challenge you, but also encourage you. Who you have that chemistry with, and you obviously is within your budget. Then you go for that. Um, that's what I would say. Um, yeah.
Would you, I guess I have two questions now, and I'm going to start with this one and then I'm going to head into the second one. But would you recommend doing reference checks on your coaches, on a coach?
I would, yeah, most coaches, good coaches, will have testimonies on their website.
Okay.
So do your research. Go to their website, check out what other people say about them. Even you can ask online what other people say about them. If somebody you know has recommended them to you,
Hmm.
then chances are they'll probably be a decent coach.
Okay.
That's why it's good to get sound out your friends, sound out people that you know, and communities that you're part of, because they will not recommend a bad coach, because they care about you and they want, they're not trying to get something from you. They care about you, so they're not going to recommend you a coach who they think is bad.
Okay.
So, but yes, do your research. Go to their website, find out about them, and do this before you talk to them as well, so that you go into that conversation with them prepared,
Hmm.
and with questions for them, because they'll like that as well, because it means that you're actually interested, in working with them, and that you're actually willing to engage. Because a good coach will only work with people who are willing to engage with them and actually engage with the process of being coached.
Okay.
People who are teachable, people who are wanting to be coached and willing to work with the process. Because if you're not, if you just want to, if you want someone just to tell you what to do, and then you don't do it, if you pay somebody and then they tell you and encourage you and give you advice and you don't follow any of it, they're going to ditch you basically, because you're wasting their time.
Okay.
Coach, sometimes coaches make you sign a contract with them, but there'll be clauses in that which will say if you're not engaging with the process, then that invalidates the contract. Because it doesn't benefit anyone. Because if you're not engaging with, as someone being coached, if you're not engaging with it, then you're paying somebody money and you're not getting anything out of it at all. That's another reason why coaches charge money, is because people don't often not engage with something when they've paid for it.
Right.
Yeah, people have got more of an investment in something when they've paid for it, because you're not going to pay a few $1,000s for a coach and then just not do anything. Not going to not engage with what the coach wants you to do.
Right.
Not unless you're really stupid. um, that's another reason why it's good to charge for coaching. But as a coach, one of the things I always struggle with was asking people for money. And what people used to tell me about that, one of the things they told me was, like, people are more likely to participate with the process if you are asking them for money.
Yeah.
If they're paying you money, um, they're going to get more out of it. They're going to engage with it better, and you'll get more out of it. It's just a good way of. It's a sign of their commitment.
Hmm.
It's a sign of somebody's commitment that they're willing to invest money, willing to invest themselves in a process of transformation. Um,
But what
yeah.
if you really do, I mean, if you're really just getting started and, like most
Mm.
creatives, you're doing this maybe as a side gig or a night gig, and, maybe you're not making a lot of money in your day
Mm.
gig. How do you afford, I mean,
Mm.
how do you make that work out from a budgetary? How do you justify that expense to yourself? And realistically, I mean, what kind of an expense do you think, is
Yeah,
reasonable to expect?
I would not have been able to afford a coach unless I had a redundancy payout from my last full-time job.
Okay.
If I'm honest, I wanted a coach before that, but I wasn't able to afford one.
Mm.
Um, that is a really tough one. That is a really tough one. It depends how much you really need and really want the coaching, and what you're going to do with the coaching. You
Yeah.
know, um,
Well, I guess that's
But
one place where
yeah,
the Facebook groups come in, right? Because then you get
mm,
exposure to their community and you get some support and you can kind of get exposed a little bit maybe to
mm.
their guiding philosophy or their coaching methodology. And usually those groups are free or inexpensive, right?
Yeah, that's right. And a lot of coaches do cheaper options as well. Like I try to, I mean, I've got on my website, I've got a 5-step course for writers, which is 5 videos over 5 weeks
Yeah.
to help them start writing, like 50 minutes basically of video. Um, and it's like $25, I think. You know, I could probably charge a lot more for that actually, in reality. But I want to create stuff that people can access
Mm,
because I don't want to. I don't want, for me. This is just how I think. I don't want people to be hindered from growing because of their income.
got it.
It should not be, in an ideal world, your ability to grow should not be dependent on your income.
Yeah.
That's not fair. That's not right. Um, yeah, that's just the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer. Um, at the end of the day, coaches have to make a living. Like most coaches, I'm not full time, but most coaches are full time. That is their job,
Yeah.
and so they have bills to pay. They have a mortgage. They have to pay for food. They have, so they have, they have to charge money, and it's their time and their expertise that you're getting.
Well, I love the idea of,
So
also reaching out and seeing if they have any courses because those are, some can be in the hundreds of dollars, but there are others that you can find that are short courses that are maybe $50 or, I mean, yours is what, $20, $25. I love that idea because usually you can even go back and access those, several times and really get a lot of value out of those.
that's right. And some people will actually just say, "Do you want to have like a 1 hour session with me, or just book a number of 1 hour sessions?" And they'll be
Yeah.
like, I don't know, between $50 and $100 a session,
Yeah.
depending on the coach.
Yeah.
Some coaches will charge a fortune,
Yeah.
but the ones that will charge a fortune are the ones who've probably earned the right to charge a fortune because they've been very successful.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, but there are some good coaches out there who will be reasonably priced, and you can talk to them about it. That's a good thing. A good coach as well. They'll be willing to talk about money with you. And I've had good coaches who are willing to do that and willing to work with me. Even when
Yeah.
I've been struggling to afford to pay, um, they've been willing to keep working with me because they believe in the process and that we have a good relationship. And because I've been committed before. Um, and I've paid before. So we've built up that relationship of trust,
Yes.
and that's what can happen with a good coach,
Mhm.
and when you get a good relationship with a coach. So, yeah,
So
uh,
what would I once I get into a relationship with a coach,
mm,
what should I really expect from them? Like, is it usually where you have like, um, I don't know. I'm going to go back to my corporate days, like a statement of work where they lay out these are the 10 things that we are going to do, and you will achieve, 5,000 Twitter followers by the time we're done, and we will achieve this inside 6 months? Or is it a bit more touchy feely, fuzzy? You are buying a package of, 6 months worth of sessions, blah, blah, blah.
it depends on the coach.
Oh, okay.
Some coaches will tell you specifically what you're going to achieve in the, say, 6 months you're working together. Um, a lot of them will say you will learn this, you will learn that, you will do this, you will experience this, you will grow in this area. Some will be much more specific,
Okay.
um, but it's difficult to be specific when you're promising something as a coach because everyone is different and
Right.
everyone will have different goals and different, because everyone is different. Everyone has their own story. So, you can't be too specific. Like if I'm working with somebody to help them write their first draft of their book, I can't tell them how many words I'm going to help them write
Mm,
because it's their book.
right.
Now their book might be 20,000 words or it might be 60,000 words, but it has to be their book. So I
And it
can't
might take
tell them.
120,000 words to get to the 60.
Yeah, exactly. It's so what I can say is I will help you get your first draft of your book written. You
Hmm.
know, and it won't be the first draft of a book. By the way, is never the draft that gets published. The draft that gets published is always about the fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth draft of a book. That's just
Really?
normal.
Hmm.
That's normal. My first book that came out in last year, Mosaic of Grace, the draft that got published was about the fourth, fifth, sixth draft. And a lot of it incorporates a lot from the original, but there's a lot of rewrites, edits,
Yeah.
that kind of thing, additions, stuff that's taken out, and it's a long process, but it's part of the creative process. That's why I love the process of writing a book, because it really is a kind of creative process,
Yeah.
and it's like you're building something, you know, and yeah, that's why I love helping other people with it because just to see that take shape from nothing to something
Yeah.
is really exciting.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I love seeing that happen, especially when somebody's got a great story to share, you know, and maybe they don't really realize what a great story they have to share. And then, and I can see it. A good coach will be able to see what's possible at the beginning. Like the first person I coached, I met them in a writers group. They asked me to coach them. I'd never even thought about coaching in my life. I'd never coached anyone in my life. I was kind of ahead of them on the writing journey, so they asked me to coach them, and I literally just had to sit down and think, what would I do if I coached somebody? And I wrote all this stuff out, and suddenly I had this coaching program for writers, and I tried it on them, and it worked. And they found their voice, and they built a business, and I saw what they could be in that first couple of sessions.
Hmm.
I couldn't say it because you can't do that as a coach. You're meant to help the people you're coaching discover it for themselves.
Right.
And so there's a real art to being a coach as well. You have to help the people you're coaching discover who they are, discover their voice. Because my coaching for writers doesn't actually begin with the first session is nothing to do with what are you going to do, what are you going to write about, blah 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 blah. It's nothing to do with that. It's about identity. It's about
Hmm.
who are you, where is your security, what's your value, like is your value in how many books you sell or what people think of your writing or comments that you get on your writing, or how many Twitter followers you have. Is that where your value comes from? Is that where your worth comes from? Because that's putting your value in what you do, and your value should come from who you are.
Hmm.
When you put your value in who you are, that frees you to go and take big risks and explore who you really are without fear.
Yeah.
That's kind of the core of my first coaching session there, right there. But yeah, so but just to see a creative project take shape and to see someone discover their calling is such a privilege.
Yeah. So are most coaches like, I mean, is it usually like a discrete session where I get to meet with them like every Tuesday at 4 p.m. And then in between you wait until you have those? Or are most coaches also accessible outside sessions, or is that coach dependent too?
It can be coach dependent, but most coaches now will give you a way to contact them in between sessions,
Okay.
whether it's on Voxer or it's on Facebook Messenger or email or anything. They will. I mean, my coach, I usually have Facebook Messenger chats with them,
Hmm.
and I can message them at any time. They will reply within a day, often on the same day,
Yeah.
and that's really really helpful.
Hmm.
Um, um, the number of sessions that you have will depend on the coach. Um, the real work of coaching is not actually done in the. I mean, you have the coaching sessions, which are like an hour usually, and you might have. It depends on the coach, but you might have one every week, or you might have a couple per month.
Okay.
And then there'll be work that you have to do in between.
Oh, okay. So I get homework.
And- well, yeah, I mean, it's partly yes. A good coach will give you. They won't call it homework. It's not. Oh, I wouldn't call it homework. It's more that they are. A good coach is kind of guiding and directing you on the stuff that you're doing.
Hmm.
They're not going to do the work for you. They're going to help you do the work
Got it.
and be more effective in doing the work and be more focused and be more confident in doing the work. And they will do. They will give you some feedback, and they will, depending on what kind of coach it is. Again, they will give you feedback. They'll give you some thoughts on what you've done. They'll give you some advice
Yeah.
and encouragement and wisdom
Yeah.
and experience. And depends on the kind of coach. If you're employing a marketing coach, they will pass on their expertise. They will give you resources. They will give you advice. They will give you contacts. They will give you I worked with a coach last year, a marketing coach, and they gave me a whole list of contacts to magazines,
Oh, really?
email addresses for people at magazines that I could contact about articles. They got me in touch with the Huffington Post and got me a blogging platform on the Huffington Post.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so they had all these contacts and they had all these resources that they had, which they passed on to me as part of our package. But part of our package was also me engaging with that process
Right.
and me taking action.
So I guess
Um,
it's one of those things then where you get out what you put in. If you put
yeah,
in to the if I as the creative put into maximizing my coaching opportunity, the coach will then match that effort and it'll be something
mm,
pretty phenomenal.
yeah. I mean, most coaches will work on Skype as well. It'll be Skype or Zoom or video call.
Okay.
Some coaches will you'll be able to meet with, but America's a big country. Um, People don't always live in the same place, and
Yeah.
so it's difficult to meet in person. Um, sometimes you can, sometimes you can, but a lot of coaches will just work via Zoom or video call,
Yeah.
which works fine.
Which is how you've coached me too.
Yeah,
We've done stuff over Messenger and we've done stuff over video calls together. And it's really nice to be able to see your face and see how you're responding to me. And the feedback that you've given me has always been really helpful and I've appreciated
well, thank you. That means a
it.
lot. That's good to know. My pleasure. My pleasure. Absolutely.
Well, I think that exhausts the questions that I have about being a coach. But I assume that if anybody in the audience has additional questions, that they can put those up on Twitter or on our Facebook page, and you can always respond to those there as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you've got any questions about coaching, um, or you're interested in coaching, yeah, tweet me at James Prescott 77, or tweet the creating normal hashtag handle at creating normal.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'd love to connect with you and speak to you about that. If you just want advice on getting a coach, I'm happy to give that as well. Yeah, anything that we haven't covered, anything we have covered, yeah, happy to help out in any way.
Awesome. All right, well, I think that moves us on to the next segment of our show, which is a tip or recommendation for the week. So, what do you have for
Mm.
us this week, James?
Well, I listened to this great podcast this week. It's called well, I've been listening to it for a while. It's called the School of Greatness podcast with Lewis Howes. And this week they talk about diet
Mm.
and food. Talks to this guy who's written this book. I can't remember what it's called, but it's a great title of the book. But basically talks about how we're often manipulated into the kind of foods we eat and how corporations and even like a lot of diet research is done by fast food companies to get you to buy their products,
Hmm.
and why we shouldn't eat processed food, and what kind of food we should be eating, and the politics behind food. It's really, really interesting. And this is a guy who's been working in this for about 30 years. He's a doctor. That's basically that's how he got into it in the first place. He's a doctor, medical doctor. So it was a really interesting conversation. I learned a lot about diet and health, and that's one challenge I'm facing myself. So it was really interesting to listen to that. And I'll put it up in the show notes, the link to that podcast, and to that guy's Lewis Howe's website. He interviews a lot of great people, and so yeah, I'd recommend that this week, definitely.
Awesome. My tip for this week, I think, is to do something new. Do something you haven't done before. So I came out of last week, being pretty heads down on working on my own website and, with everything that came with that. And I was feeling a little overwhelmed with doing that and the writing and the social media and all the other stuff. And on Saturday, I just walked away from it all and made mozzarella cheese from scratch for the first time. Like went to the grocery store and bought whole milk and bought some rennet and bought some citric acid. And next thing I knew, I was stretching my mozzarella. It was pretty neat. And it's an entirely, it engaged a very different part of my brain. It's an entirely different creative process. And when I did sit back down at my computer again on Sunday, I just found that I was in a different headspace, and it really made it easier for me to kind of dive. In fact, I felt energized again when I sat back down at my computer and ready to dive back in and I think it had to do with just tapping into something I'd never done before.
That's awesome. I think I remember the Instagram post you posted of that as well. The photo of the mozzarella that you made. That was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was really proud of myself. I'm like, these are some advanced cooking skills. And for anybody who's known me, knows that I used to set my oven on fire on a pretty regular basis. Cooking has never been one of my strong points, but I've focused on it. Since I stepped back from my career, I've had time and I have focused on learning how to cook. And it's really neat now to kind of see where I'm at. Like I make my own mayonnaise, I make my own ranch dressing, I can make my own ketchup. And now here I am making, mozzarella cheese. That's pretty exciting and rewarding for me. And it's something that's physical. It gets me out of my chair, it gets me moving around, and it's a more tactile experience. I imagine it's something like what painters, I wish I could paint, but I imagine it's something like what a painter experiences in terms of how tactile it is, or a sculptor.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Really awesome.
Well, I think that is our week. Yes.
Yeah, I just want to say as well, I mean, in terms of coaching, um, if anyone here did want me to coach them, is interested in starting a writing journey or writing a book or trying to find their identity, calling, that kind of thing, I would love to talk to them. Hope this isn't like a shameless plug, but I do genuinely love helping people, if you need some help, just tweet me, James Prescott 77, or go to my website, and I'll put the website in the show notes as well, jamesprescott.co.uk. That's coaching.
Well, and you can find it also up on the creatingnormalpodcast.com website
Yeah,
as well.
that's right. Yeah. I just figured I should say something about that just in case anybody was interested. I'm sure nobody is, but it's worth saying anyway. And I just want people to find the coach that's right for them.
Yeah.
And if that's not me, that's fine. Because I think coaching can be really, really useful to helping us grow.
Yep. Awesome. Well, thanks, James, for answering all my questions this week. I really did appreciate it. It's given me a lot to think about.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for asking those questions. It's great. It's great to talk about it.
Yeah, I think coaching is something that gets underrated. in terms of its ability to help us as creatives move forward and achieve our dreams.
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, I guess until next week then, huh?
Yeah, next week. Until next week.
Next week. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us today.
Yep. Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Creating Normal podcast. You can find links and show notes to everything we've discussed today on our website at creatingnormalpodcast.com. We invite you to continue the conversation in our Facebook group, which you can find at Creating Normal Community. You can follow James on Twitter and Instagram at JamesPrescott77, and you can follow Teresa on Twitter and Instagram at Teresa M. Cologne. Thanks for listening.